Well, there are a lot of anxious folks who are taking a look at Harrisburg and wondering just what's going to happen with the state budget. Our educators, not the least of them, but Senator Joe Pittman is right there in the middle of the arena as the budget battle rages on in Harrisburg. Our visit with the senator presented by Marcus and Mack, voted best law firm and best personal injury lawyer 3 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online at marcusandmack.com. Senator, good morning.
Good morning, Todd. How are you?
Wonderful, and it's good to have you with us here today. I saw on a Pittsburgh TV report last night an interesting story on the budget, and their lead to the story was there's optimism that Governor Shapiro's budget is going to pass. That's the first I've heard that.
Who thinks that his budget can pass as presented? Certainly not our Senate Republican majority, because it would be devastating to the taxpayers. We're fiscally out of balance, and while we have this surplus and we have this rainy day fund, and that all sounds well and good, we have to always keep the focus on the reality that these are one-time dollars, and we're dealing with recurring expenses. And this fiscal year, which is going to conclude on Monday, we will have spent $3 billion more than we've brought in. We're able to fill that hole because of our fund balance, but we can't continue to do that. Now, the good news is if we course correct now and start making some changes, we can protect the taxpayer and we can continue to provide the services required by the state government. But the governor's proposal tries to be all things to all people, and I just don't see any way we are able to fully fund it.
Lessons learned would have to be applied, wouldn't they, in order to make this all become a reality, that we had a good budget plan, probably not in place by June 30th, but if you don't learn those lessons of the past about dealing with fund balances and deficit spending, then you're bound to repeat them.
We are, and we also have to realize that while June 30th is the constitutional requirement for a new budget to be in place, there really isn't going to be functional impacts on the daily lives of Pennsylvanians and even school districts for several weeks at the earliest. So we have time, and I would rather not have a budget enacted on June 30th and instead take the time we need to take to put the best product in place that we possibly can.
In order for that to happen, of course, there's going to have to be some accommodations made, and certainly Republicans have their idea about what would be the fiscally responsible way to go about it. Democrats have their own ideas. Tell me about the negotiation process, how it has gone. Is there movement in either direction?
Well, the movement changes by the hour, frankly. I did an interview yesterday, and I characterized the discussions as less than nowhere. That was 24 hours ago. We've made some progress over the last several hours, and we continue to figure out a way to go back and forth on where we can get to yes on this. We have very, very divergent views of the future of the Commonwealth, and that's okay. We respect the electoral mandate that the House Democrats have, that the governor has, and we recognize that we have our own electoral mandate. And so we're going to continue to dance and figure out where the push and pull points are and how we can compromise. We've said we think there are two fundamental underpinnings to get to a full budget deal. That is containing the growth of Medicaid spending, because right now it is booked at a $2 billion increase by the governor's proposal. If that's what we have to spend in increased Medicaid, then the conversations are real quick because there's no money left. And the other issue is a regulatory framework around games of skill. It is now well past time, in my opinion, to put a regulatory framework around this type of gaming in this Commonwealth, and we have to attack that.
That's something that has really come up fast, hasn't it? It was not a couple of years ago. We were hardly talking about it at all. It was just a minor part of the budget picture. It's become a really major mover in budget talks.
Yeah, we have a court ruling that has indicated that these games of skill are not gambling. I tend to disagree, quite frankly, but the court made their ruling, and so now we have this industry operating in the Commonwealth, which is fine. We need to allow markets to work, but there also has to be a regulatory framework, an age-restricted environment, some sort of accountability for what's going on in the use of these machines, and I frankly am not sure that most of these machines are actually the so-called games of skill. I think they're basically redone slot machines, and they're all over the Commonwealth, and I think we need to, for public safety purposes and a whole other list of reasons, bring a framework around them.
We look at what are the traditional sticking points in budget negotiations, education being one of the biggest of those, and certainly human services another. In terms of education funding, what's the picture there?
It's a challenge. The education funding piece is a huge, complex challenge for a number of reasons. One, there's the overall amount of spending increase in education, and then there's the question of how do you drive those dollars out to school districts and do it in a fair manner. And keeping in mind that we have 500 school districts in this Commonwealth, they all have uniqueness in their own right, and they all have different definitions of what is fair. And we have to figure out that right balance. It's a real difficult issue. I also think that we need to do something with cyber charter schools and to continue to build on the reforms that we made with cyber charters last year. Keep in mind, we made significant reforms in last year's budget on cyber charters, saving school districts about $100 million a year statewide. I think there is room to build on that, and we should build on that, but we need to recognize that if we're going to make reforms in the cyber charter space, that is tantamount to an increase in education subsidy because we are saving school districts dollars. And I also think that is a step in satisfying the Commonwealth Court decision on how we figure out the best way to fund education.
Cyber charter funding and the formula by which those numbers are arrived is something that has become really more than just a little bit of a noisy thing. There's a downright uproar among school districts across the state about cyber charter funding. We also have, for instance, Philip Martell, superintendent at River Valley, with his op-ed in which he said what they're talking about in Harrisburg has no chance of working, whether it's passed or not. The $8,000 limit is what he was talking about, spending per student. That is something that obviously is very much a part of the budget discussions, but there's an overall picture there that has to be solved too, isn't there?
There is the overall picture, and I tend to agree with Mr. Martell on that front. I don't think an arbitrary flat cap on the rate works for a myriad of reasons, but I'm preferring to figure out a way to right-size the cost of cyber education to better reflect the cost of educating the student. And I do certainly see areas where that is out of whack currently.
Senator Joe Pittman on the line with us here this morning. Budget negotiations going on in Harrisburg even as we speak. Senator, you were quoted last week as saying that the possibility is that you get to the deadline or soon after and do a temporary budget that is going to take care of immediate costs, and then after that arrive at a total package. Is that still a possibility? Is that a probability?
It's a possibility. It's not a probability. It's not the preferred approach. But if we find ourselves in a protracted situation, we can certainly pass a partial budget, a stopgap budget. But again, here we are on June 25th. Frankly, throughout the month of July, if we do not have a product in place, we still have time to maneuver. And so I'm not overly concerned at this point. July 1st, the sun will come up, Lord willing, and the people of Pennsylvania will move on with their daily lives, and I don't think they'll notice a darn bit of difference whether or not the state budget's passed.
And you'll continue to hammer away at it in Harrisburg, both you and Representative Struzzi and the rest of the State General Assembly. I want to thank you for coming on board, joining us this morning.
Thank you, Todd, and I got to tell you, Jim's a great partner. We're lucky to have him in the position he's in the House. It's a great asset to our community.
Yeah. Air conditioning working at the Capitol?
Thankfully it is. Thank God for our power plants. They're keeping us cool.
There's a whole nother topic, but we don't have time for it today. Senator, thank you.
Thanks, Todd. We'll see you.
There's Senator Joe Pittman joining us from Harrisburg this morning here on Indiana in the Morning.